The European Union is approaching the proposed US tariffs with a clear preference for dialogue and negotiation. The EU sees tariffs as detrimental to both economies. However, the bloc is also prepared to retaliate with countermeasures if talks fail. This measured approach underscores the EU's commitment to protecting its interests while keeping the door open for a mutually beneficial resolution. The EU already paused retaliatory tariffs for 90 days. This pause allows time for negotiations with the US. The EU's stance is rooted in the understanding that a trade war would have negative consequences for all involved. Tariffs would disrupt supply chains, raise prices for consumers, and potentially lead to job losses on both sides of the Atlantic. The EU recognizes the importance of the transatlantic trade relationship and seeks to avoid further escalation. The EU is not alone in its concerns about the proposed tariffs. Many businesses and industry groups within the United States have also voiced their opposition, fearing the impact on their operations and the broader economy. This shared concern could provide an opportunity for a more constructive dialogue between the two sides. The EU's approach is characterized by a combination of firmness and pragmatism. While prepared to defend its interests, the EU remains open to finding a negotiated solution that addresses the concerns raised by the United States. The coming weeks and months will be crucial in determining whether a trade war can be averted. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has emerged as a key figure in the unfolding trade drama between the EU and the US. Her recent meeting with former President Donald Trump, who reimposed the 10% tariffs on European imports, was closely watched for insights into potential negotiation outcomes. Meloni's position is complex. She is a right-wing leader who has shown some affinity for Trump's conservative views. Despite her political leanings, Meloni has increasingly positioned herself as a centrist figure within the EU. She has worked closely with other European leaders, especially on issues related to trade and economic policy. This collaborative approach is crucial for presenting a united front in negotiations with the US. Meloni's history with Trump adds another layer of intrigue to her role. She has praised him in the past and expressed support for some of his policies. This positive relationship could prove beneficial in facilitating dialogue and finding common ground. However, it's important to note that Meloni's stance does not necessarily reflect widespread European support for Trump's Make America Great Again agenda or the tariffs themselves. The EU's primary interest lies in securing tariff relief and ensuring fair trade practices. Meloni's challenge will be to balance her perceived closeness to Trump with the broader interests of the European Union. The economic stakes of the US tariff dispute are significant for the EU. As a major exporter to the United States, the EU would feel the impact of tariffs across various sectors. Key industries including pharmaceuticals, vehicles and machinery, which represent billions of euros in trade, could face reduced demand and financial losses. The EU's substantial trade surplus with the US, amounting to 48 billion euros in 2023, underscores the potential for economic disruption. The tariffs have also introduced a level of market uncertainty that extends beyond direct trade figures. Investors are wary of the potential for escalating trade tensions, which could dampen global economic growth. The International Monetary Fund has already warned that a full-blown trade war between the US and the EU could shave off a significant percentage of global GDP. Amidst these concerns, alternative visions for transatlantic trade have emerged. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, has proposed a zero-tariff free movement of workers zone between North America and Europe. Musk's proposal, while ambitious, reflects a growing desire for closer economic ties and reduced barriers to trade and innovation. The EU's focus on negotiation and its willingness to consider alternative proposals like Musk's demonstrate a commitment to finding a solution that works for all parties involved. The economic well-being of both the EU and the US depends on open markets and predictable trade policies. The path forward in the US-EU trade dispute remains uncertain. While the EU has expressed a clear preference for negotiation, the US administration's stance appears more unpredictable. Recent meetings between US and EU officials, including the April 14th meeting between trade representatives, have yielded little progress, adding to the sense of unease. Despite the challenges, The EU remains committed to its dual-track approach, pursuing dialogue while preparing for potential countermeasures. The 90-day pause on retaliatory tariffs provides a window of opportunity for both sides to find common ground. However, the EU has made it clear that it will not hesitate to act if its interests are not protected. The EU's strategy hinges on maintaining a united front among its member states. This unity has been tested in recent years by internal divisions on various issues. However, the threat of economically damaging tariffs has galvanized support for a common European position. The EU's approach to the US tariffs is a high-stakes balancing act. The bloc seeks to defend its economic interests, preserve the transatlantic trade relationship, and navigate the complexities of a shifting geopolitical landscape. The coming months will reveal whether dialogue and diplomacy can prevail over protectionism and economic nationalism.